welcome to a Quick Nine podcast. I'm your host, Teddy Fenton, and I'm joined every week by my good friends and golf experts in the professional golf game, starting with veteran reporter from Sports Illustrated, Mr. Bob Harig, as well as seasoned reporter from USA Today, Golfweek, Mr. Adam Woodard, and from the notorious Country Club adjacent founding member and all-around nice guy, Mr. Jake Adams. That's our esteemed panelists, and today we have a very special guest for our first episode. We have three-time professional golf winner and current member of the Range Goats GC team in the Live Golf League, Mr. Harold Varner III. I'm so glad you guys are all joining us today. I don't want to waste any time. Let's just jump into the deep end, get right into it. Maybe the biggest story in what's happening in professional golf. We're going to start with you, Bob. It's on everybody's mind. It's the biggest story in all of golf, in all of professional golf, maybe. Do you think that the PGA Tour or the Live Golf merger will actually materialize? What do you think that's going to look like in 2024?
Well, you're right. No softballs to start. I mean, that's the big question in the game right now. Will this go through? And I think there's too many unknowns at the moment to really give a definitive answer either way. There's so much going on behind the scenes that I don't think we're ever going to be privy to. I think, my guess is it will go through because I think both sides need it. The PGA Tour obviously needs it. There's money involved that they clearly are needing. They've got to get some help to keep pushing forward with all the different things they're trying to do. And on the PIF Live side, I think they need it for credibility. I think they need it to be part of the golf ecosystem, to be part of the whole thing that's going on. And instead of being an outsider and being viewed as a rebel, I think it's more important for them to be part of the system and everybody to work together. Now, how will it look in 2024? I don't think it's going to change. 2024 is going to be as it is right now. I don't think this can get done in time for there to be any huge differences next year. I think what we're looking at is 2025 for some things to be different. And how that will look, though, is really probably a discussion for a whole podcast. I mean, there's so many different ways that we could approach how that whole system will come together.
You're absolutely right, Bob. Adam, what do you have to say on the matter?
I agree with Bob in the fact that I think it has to happen. There's way too much to lose on both sides for this not to go through. I think no one benefits from the game being divided, from having Harold playing on a different tour with different people and not being able to come back and have that easy access into the majors. I think we need to see a lot more of the Live players in the majors, and this is going to be a way to do that. A divided game I don't think is good for anybody. So yeah, I agree with Bob in the fact that I think there's just too much to lose, and that eventually it's probably going to be in the 11th hour like a lot of these things have been. But I just think they have to find a way to come to a deal.
Harold, are you on the same page? Do you think that's what's coming down the road in 2024? You got a better view than any of us.
I don't think we do at all. I don't think we have a better view at all. I think people assume that, and then y'all keep asking, and I just get tired of it. I think there's too much information being told to the public. I think it should be ran like our government. It's pretty high up stuff going on. I think we shouldn't know it all. I think they should just, those 10, 12 guys should make a decision, and I should go play for a lot of money. I think that's how the world should be. I think if you sit there and you're like, well, it should be like this. It should be, well, listen here, bud, you're not the guy in charge. So your opinion doesn't matter. And that's the beautiful thing about America. If you work your tail off and you get in these rooms where it's high caliber people, where you've had experiences of trying to fix stuff like this. I wouldn't even know where to begin to try to fix this. I could sit here and say oh yeah, this would be a good idea if we had these many tournaments or this and that. But I don't know shit.
Well, Jake, let me ask you, do you know
I mean, no, obviously. No. But, I mean, I don't know. I mean, golf historically has been run by that, 10 people, right? And that's the kind of history of country clubs where, the people with the most money make the decisions. And I don't see that changing. It's kind of what's happening is like whoever has the most money gets to own the game, and that's even more apparent now. So yeah, I think.
Do you not think that's in everything maybe in this world?
Oh yeah,
like I don't
for sure.
I don't know a thing where you go, man, I'm the peasant and I'm going to run this. Like that's just not. I mean, it sucks, but like you also in America, you could go from the peasant to the guy who owns everything.
Yeah, I mean, but I think the game's in an interesting switch right now where like the people without the money at the country club are almost the majority now of the people that like to play the game and how they like to play it. So it's so interesting that like Twitter has its say on like where they think the game is going. Even in reality, it's still that small percentage of the people with all the money that are going to make the choice regardless. So it doesn't really matter what we think, because Harold's right. Like golf is the most uptight, closed off game that like people with the money are going to say, oh, you play here and this is how much you're playing for and this is what it's going to be. So I don't think it really matters what we say.
If all of us are, we all kind of looked in the mirror and say, yeah, none of us really know. But just a hypothetical here, Adam, I'll go to you with this question. Do you think, what do you think will happen if this deal doesn't go down?
Once again, piggyback off what Bob said earlier, like as far as we're concerned, nothing's going to change for 2024. Liv is still going to put on. We're not sure how many events or what it's going to look like, but Liv is still going to be going on. The PGA Tour is still going to be going on. So if this deal falls through, I think we'll probably see a few more players from the PGA Tour go over to Liv, just similar to what happened over the last year, especially with how much money they're going to be playing for and the steps forward that Liv is planning to take in 2024. And also, they're already planning for 2025 as well to have that ready to go. So I think it'll be the same as what we're seeing right now before this merger deal happened, where a couple players will go a year, and then we'll see how truly dedicated the guys that said they were to the PGA Tour are if this is going to fall through.
Harold, you're in the middle of all of this. I mean, if this deal falls through, what do you think is going to happen?
I think they're doing a good job of it. I mean, I think you guys come out there quite often and you go, it's way better than what. I mean, every time you go, it's just more traction. The thing that gets me is I find it very ironic that I've probably invited, I'd say, 100 people in a season, and yes, they are my age, and they're like, bro, I don't really want to go to another PGA Tour event. But from a personal opinion, it's very important for me to, like, at 33, like if I was older, it'd be a little different. I still want to see how good I am. My ego gets to me a little bit when I hear people say like we're not good. That I think that sometimes it gets me fired up, but it is what it is. Like I'm comfortable, like I just love we made this big stink about it. I've grown up as a person, so like in the grand scheme of things, it probably helped me because like I don't care so much about being liked. I don't care like what you think of me, but it kind of is not good when I'm doing these podcasts because like I just really say what's on my mind, and sometimes that gets wrapped into something it shouldn't. And I love getting on Twitter now. It's like it's just a different me, and my kid had his first day of school, so I could care less what anyone thinks of the PGA Tour or Live. Like, to be honest with you, I was on this earth to work and make money and really like help people, and I'm going to do that whether no matter which one. Yeah.
Well, yeah, Harold, you're doing it. I mean, you've got your nose to the grindstone. Your foundation is doing incredible work. But back to the topic, Jake. What do you think happens if this deal doesn't get consummated? Where does that leave the PGA Tour and Live Golf?
I mean, just as a spectator, like if it doesn't happen, I'm just interested to see like what comes out because like they already started to like it's clear that like I mean in my opinion from an outsider the PGA Tour has been like a money laundering scheme for years, right? So like I want to see that. I want to see that come out. It's just like them not be able to hide their books anymore.
Exactly.
That's what I want to see, bro.
That's going down a slippery slope. Bob, what do you think of that?
Well, if this deal doesn't go through, I agree that it's going to be business as usual for at least next year. There's no doubt that Liv will recruit more players. There's clearly a lot of doubt and some disappointment. Maybe that's even a very benign word to describe how this went down among PGA Tour players. They were caught off guard. They were told one thing and another thing occurred. And so there's going to be some people that go. And the problem I see on the live side, however, on the PIF side, is they don't get their seat at the table. I mean, if this deal goes through, Yasser becomes a board member of the PGA Tour. That's important. I think it helps them with other initiatives that they have. As we've talked about before, Teddy, I mean, you could see Aramco being a title sponsor or a presenting sponsor on the PGA Tour.
I got a question though. What's
Yasser
wrong with that? Like that's what I don't understand about this whole deal. It's like
nothing.
Like him being on the board. Like I mean, he's on the board of like Aramco. Like I think the PGA Tour is like peanuts to that company. I mean, in our eyes, it is.
Oh, yeah, but Yasser's on the board of like 30-something companies in America.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what's the bad thing for that?
There's nothing bad for that for Live. No. I'm saying.
What is it bad for the PGA Tour though? As well,
it's not. That's why not necessarily. That's why I believe they need an agreement, because I think they need the resources that the PIF can bring to the PGA Tour. They clearly, this model that they've put forth with the signature events and $20 million purses and all that, they can't support it yet. They've got title sponsors who are behind the scenes blocking, and so I think that's why you need the peace in the game, because if there's no peace, then this elevates and Live continues to recruit players, and the tour has to throw more resources to try to keep them. But on the Live side, I think it would hurt them ultimately, not in the short term. They got plenty of money to do whatever they want, but I mean, eventually,
it'd be hard to get competition every year. Make it legit.
I think you don't want there to be a Live event playing against the Honda Classic like this year or some other tournament. You want them to be able to shine on their own. You want TV exposure. You need sponsors eventually, and in theory, the tour would help them work towards some of those goals. They would be on the same team as opposed to fighting. So that's why I think a deal needs to happen. And if one doesn't happen, then we're sort of in this limbo again, and into the next couple of years, where does it go? I mean,
I got another question. This does my fucking head in, to be honest with you. Why does the Live need I understand they need each other for it to look good, but I feel like some of these companies will easily go take the Saudi money to make money for their company, but whenever why does the PGA Tour need? I think the PGA Tour made it where if you do that, you're not going to be able to sponsor the PGA Tour. It's not for instance, it's not like the PIF needs the PGA Tour to go talk to FedEx. You know what I mean? That's where
PIF doesn't need anybody to talk to anybody.
It's only good if the PGA Tour agrees to it. And the problem I have with that is the PGA Tour has been so good to me. When I left, I felt like I did it respectfully with the people in the PGA Tour, and it's given me an opportunity of a lifetime. But they don't need my agreements when they go do something. But I don't for instance, I get they shouldn't be against the Honda, but the PIF shouldn't be I shouldn't have to worry about what the PGA Tour thinks, or a sponsor shouldn't be held up because of another organization because you don't like them, or I've never heard of that in business.
Well, let me just say this: I think the moral roadblocks are gone. That argument is gone. But I think being part of the bigger picture, being part of the structure, allows for more acceptance. In other words,
that's what I think. Yeah, exactly.
And so if they're part of the whole thing, it makes it easier for them. Look, they want to go beyond Live. I think, we saw the story where Yasser had a meeting at the Open this year with Martin Slumbers of the RNA. This framework agreement has sort of given some pathways to things like that occurring. And I got to believe, we don't know what's in his head, but Yasser probably has a bigger vision for this than just Live. And I think those things might be important to him, having those conversations, maybe being able to, sponsor RNA things. It helps get their word out too. So that's why I say I think they need an agreement. I'm not saying that they can't go ahead and do this on their own.
Yeah, that's where I'm like, hold on.
They've certainly proven that they can. This is why we're at this point, I think. I think the tour realized they're not going away. and we're going to have to continue to compete with an entity we can't compete with, certainly financially.
Well, Harold, let's go right into the third question here. Like, if this deal does get consummated, what do you think the future looks like then at that point for LIV and the PGA? Is there a new entity? Is something new, or is it two separate entities working individually?
I think it's going to be
all
of it together. I think they're trying to say it's going to be separate, but I think it's going to be some type of schedule where you play. It'll be a year-round schedule, but it'll be LIV and that stuff will be like not so much optional, but I think the money will be so great that you'll have to go play, and I think they'll have the best players in the world. It's just where do you put the tournaments? That's what I think will happen, but for my life, you know what will happen? I'll do exactly what I've been doing since I was a kid, play golf. And you guys will write about it if I do something good. If I say something stupid, you'll hear about it later. I mean, I don't know. It's just very simple for me. My life is simple. I feel like it's pretty simple. I like to have fun. So for me personally, it'll be the same. It'll be get on a plane, go travel, go play golf, do what I love doing. I played golf yesterday. I'm so pumped for my club championship. Like, I'm going to play golf whether you guys figure it out or not. But from the grand scheme of things, I think I'm intrigued to see what the government's going to say about having a nonprofit involved with a for-profit. Those things usually don't go well in business. So if that happens, they just got to structure it right. Because we obviously know the most important thing that ever happened to the tour was making it where it was a nonprofit.
Yeah.
Let's call a spade a spade. So when they put those things together, I just think there's too many smart people in the room not to figure it out, and there's too many people that are influential, powerful to not be like, hey man, get this done from the political side so that we can further the game. I think $2-3 billion into golf can't hurt. I just wouldn't know how to spend it. I don't know how to spend $3 sometimes. It won't go far, but you know what I mean. So it's really cool. I'm super happy for the people that really work at the tour, the people that have done the real legwork at LIV, that wake up every day dealing with all this BS. I've developed some incredible relationships with those kind of people. So the people at the top can go fluff off. They're making money like I'm making money. They're going to be all right. So it's whatever. It's the people that wake up every day and just want to do good for their company,
Are you on the same page, Jake, as Harold with where this thing is going?
Yeah, I mean, I think regardless what happens, the game as a whole is getting better and more accessible, and I think from my perspective, that's all that really matters, because I've caddied for too long of a portion of my life and been feeling uptight being at any country club, right? So to see what's happening with LIV and see the changes the PGA Tour is making, I think it's regardless going in a good direction for the audience, or for the viewer. For people just to the accessibility of the game.
What do you think, Bob?
I'm sort of the opinion that we need peace, that they need to come together, that smart people can figure some of these things out, and get things back on track, and that everybody can kind of get along. I mean, but how that looks is really to be determined. Harold kind of said it. There's a lot of opinions out there, but there's really a lot of nitty gritty to figure out to make it all come together and work. And the for-profit nonprofit thing is an intriguing aspect of all this. The way it's been portrayed or put forth in the framework agreement is that the PGA Tour Inc., which is a nonprofit, would still continue to operate. So if that is true, it would operate as it is, and then the new company, or PGA Tour Enterprises, is for profit. How do you work those two things together? I'm not sure that you do. I think the PGA Tour Enterprises is going to be separate. It's going to be different tournaments. It's going to be, is LIV part of that, folded in some way? Is that a team concept for that, or whatever it might be, is going to be separate. The PGA Tour, I don't think the PGA Tour agrees to something that disrupts its model. And that's where this could get interesting, because like I've been saying, I think the Tour needs this. But yet, I don't think they want to disrupt what they've had in place for 60 plus years.
Adam, what are your thoughts on the matter?
Yeah, I think they're all going to have to meet in the middle at somewhere. I agree with what Jake was saying earlier about how the game is becoming more accessible. I mean, I know when I met him and saw Bob out at the first live event in the U.S. out in Portland, my first takeaway was like, there's clearly a market for this, right? Whether it just depends on what you want out of professional golf and what you want out of a day out watching golf. There are some people that want the more rigid PGA Tour experience, and then there's the festival-like atmosphere at Live. Like there's something for everybody out there, no matter what you want for what kind of golf right now. And I think that's good. And I think that's something that, they should definitely lean into. But with what Harold and Bob were saying earlier about how, the two just being merged together, it's just not that easy. And I agree with Bob that the PGA Tour is going to be separate. It's a strong enough brand on its own as it is right now. I think it can live on its own. And then if everything else goes under that new co or PGA Tour Enterprises, whatever the hell we're calling it these days, I think that's where that's where the money's going to be. And like Bob said, that Live could be a part of that. It could just be a normal team event. It could be something different that we don't even know about that they're planning behind the scenes. But I agree with what everyone else is saying, and that there's got to be some sort of meeting in the middle here at some point. But the problem is both sides are very stubborn. I don't think either one wants to give in any earlier than they have to. So if they have till the end of the year to do this, we're going to probably have to wait till the end of the year to figure out what it's going to look like.
Well, speaking of that, Jake, that leads into the next question. Do you think it's necessary or helpful for Jay Monahan and or Greg Norman to step aside as commissioners to kind of let both sides get together in a little bit more unified group? What do you think, Jake?
Well, I think we have to really just focus on what is the most important factor here, and that is to make sure that Yasser gets a membership at Augusta National, regardless of what happens. That's why, we all get into the game to one day be able to be a member at Augusta. And, he's making that happen for himself. So, that's what I'm focused on, making sure that happens.
Right on. Glad we got you on the case. Bob, what do you think?
I think this is a tough one. I'm not sure that has to be the case, that they have to step aside. I think certainly in the case of Monahan, he's going to have his own battles to face whether or not this goes through or not. He's faced a lot of criticism from within. And I think how this deal goes down and what happens will ultimately determine his fate. Greg's situation, I think, is different. I mean, my sense right now is that, he's more of the out front guy for Liv. I don't know that he's involved in this on a day-to-day basis with the negotiations. So I'm not sure why that would matter. I know there was the Tiger and Roy rhetoric, back a year or so ago about, he's going to have to be gone. Well, he's not, and they came to a framework agreement. Who knows what might happen behind the scenes with all that. But I'm not necessarily convinced that they have to be gone for this to work.
What do you think, Harold? You're in the middle of it. You one's the boss.
My boss. Yeah, exactly. It's interesting. It's just funny how people think that, but it is what it is. I don't know. I don't have a problem with either one of them. I've spoke directly to both of them about what I do like about things and what I don't like about things, and I don't care to share that because I'm obviously very opinionated. So I don't think either one has a clue of if this is going to go through. I think it's way above that. I think there's people that are talking that are just not out front. I think you have a person out there that's like, hey, I'm the commissioner, and he just holds a title, and just both of them have been good to me through my entire life, and that's how I judge people. But that'd be like me telling you I don't think you should be able to do this podcast. I'd tell you to screw off, or I'd tell you I don't think I should be able to, I shouldn't be able to write about golf. So, that's where I get mad. You shouldn't have the wherewithal to tell someone they shouldn't be able to do it when they've been doing it forever. But also, it's the PGA Tour, it's ran by the players. They have the right. I used to have the right to fire that guy, and no one has the balls to do it. So it is what it is. I don't really care. Just get the stuff done. That's what you get paid $10 million a year to do. Go do it. Step up to the plate, do what you're supposed to do. You went to all these schools, you did all this education bull stuff. Do your job. If I don't do my job, I'm gonna get fired. I'm gonna fire myself, basically. So it's just interesting that I don't know. And I think it's also kind of weird that Greg's been super quiet, if you haven't noticed. So it's just, I think there's some other stuff going on, which I think's awesome because I don't have to answer it. You know, like if no one's talking, I don't have to say anything.
What's your thoughts on the matter, Adam?
I think I kind of agree with a little bit with everyone saying. I think it's funny how quick everyone is to always say, "Oh, this person should lose their job," just assuming that the next person's going to be better. When a lot of the time that's not the case at all, and the grass isn't always greener on the other side. No matter if it's Greg, if it's Jay. That said, I wouldn't be surprised if either of them, move on or are in different jobs, or if Jay does take over as the head of this new company and then leaves behind the PGA Tour commissionership. I could see that happening. I could see Greg being in a more figurehead role, like we've all said he is. Harold pointing out that he's been very quiet and not nearly as out in front as he has been over the last year. But like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if either things happen. But I also agree that it doesn't need to happen just because of, look, the release for the merger, the framework agreement was botched. Everyone knows that. Everyone can all agree with that. It was handled incredibly improperly across the board, but that doesn't mean that the guy should just all of a sudden lose his job when he has done a lot for the PGA Tour going forward, or in the past, and it's put the PGA Tour in a pretty decent spot right now. So
if we had this conversation, this is funny. If we had this conversation in closed doors and not on this, it'd be totally different for everyone right here. Because if you say something wrong like that, you're gonna get shut out from golf. Like it's
Harold,
embarrassing.
I don't know if you know the content we put out, but I truly don't care what I say.
I know you don't. But I'm saying, three of these guys have to literally go up there and like they interview with Jay. It would be totally different, and it would also be different if you were the boss, and you were paying Jay or Greg. You'd be like, cut that shit out, man. Like you would hold them to a different standard if you were the boss. That's where it gets funny. So we can go to the next question. I just laugh.
Wait a minute. I'm just going to respectfully push back on that. I
agree.
I am not worried about access in the least. If I was at the Tour Championship.
Access, I'm saying if you were the boss, if you're the boss of the PGA Tour, like if you're the owner, you ran a company, like you're like, hey man, I'm gonna hire this CEO. You would be like, whoa, wait a minute. You would think differently we could actually talk about what I expect from my CEO to run my business properly, to efficiently. And that's why I think it's kind of weird about this. It's very personal instead about business.
Well, I mean,
the whole thing is.
I think we've talked about and we've written that this is handled poorly and that Jay's job is sort of in jeopardy because of it. Yeah. I mean, he's caught a lot of grief, but it is not me to decide if he's stays on or not. It's really I can talk to a bunch of players who are not happy, and it comes out all the time. I mean, there's some prominent players like Xander and Scotty Scheffler and even Jordan Spieth, who's close with Jay. They question his leadership after this. You've seen it, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, I flew up to the RBC Canadian the day of when all that stuff happened and talked to at least 20 players, and all of them said, yeah, we have confidence, but it's waning. Like, just because I don't think he is going to lose his job doesn't mean I don't see the merits in if he were to. Also, that said, like, I'm not trying to toe a line or anything. It's just truly what I think. Like, I think he's probably going to hang on to his job, and he's still going to do it, but it doesn't mean that I think he's going to lose it either. I wouldn't be surprised if he was either, because I think there's been enough there. He's not a great public speaker. That's been clear. He's not great answering a lot of questions. That's been clear over the past. I think if you're going to be pushing forward with a new entity and the PGA Tour, you're going to want someone who's better and more equipped to be handling questions like this and being forward speaking. Jay might not be that guy.
You think he's bad at public speaking though? Like, I mean, this is my point of this whole thing. He is. I think, from my experience, I think he's unbelievable at
answering questions. I think. Answering questions.
I think the questions have changed though after some of the decisions that have happened on the tour.
Fair.
And I don't think all, you know what I mean? Like, usually the decisions are like, what's next for the PGA Tour, blah blah, the money's cush, we're good, whatever. As soon as there's confrontation and there's like, there's just different stuff going on that people might not agree. It's easy to ask questions that are harder to answer. Like, and I've done poor with that, like myself, like, so it's just, I think it's easy to say, like, go ahead.
No, you're right to call me out there. I might have misspoken and said he's a bad public speaker. I don't think he's a bad public speaker when it comes to answering questions and facing like that. That might be what I'm trying to get across. Is that
I know exactly what you're saying. I'm not saying you're right or wrong. I don't really care what either one of y'all think. I'm just telling you. I would think it'd be hard to answer questions when you're hated every time. Like I think some people really hate Jay. And if you run a business, I think it's also hard to see a guy, think about Bud Light. This is a perfect example. Bud Light makes one bad move. Hey, man, you're out, dude. We'll get another CEO, another CMO. We're good. You know what I mean? That's how businesses really ran. So I find it very odd that, you can't have the conversation as if, because you might hurt somebody's feelings or whatever it might be.
I was going to say, speaking of hurting people's feelings, that kind of leads into the next question, which is for Bob. Bob, Zach Johnson and Luke Donald have just recently made their Ryder Cup captain's picks. Do you think, with everything that's been going on in the professional golf world, do you think that they too have truly assembled the two best teams? Or are these the two best teams that are available? What do you think?
Well, I certainly think they believe they have. I mean, I think we can debate the picks. Certainly, that's part of the process. I mean, I think the way I would answer it on the U.S. side for sure is there's more guys and there are worse spots. And if you don't make the top 6, you don't deserve it. The only people who deserve it are the ones who actually qualify on points through the BMW Championship, those 6 guys. After that, you've left it to the whims. And, on the U.S. side, for years and years, there's been always this criticism. They're a bunch of individuals. They're not a team. How does Tiger Woods play on only one winning Ryder Cup team in his career? 99, that's it. Just one. Phil's played in only 3 out of 12. Is it because those guys were individuals only? I don't necessarily think so, but they didn't do a great job of thinking ahead and trying to get them good partners. And this is what I think they're trying to do now. I'm not necessarily saying they're right about the picks. I get it. I mean, JT's had a bad year. Keegan Bradley, I would have loved to have seen him on the team. His passion is something that, maybe is being overlooked. But for, Sam Burns, I believe, made it because they feel he's a good partner for Scheffler. They played together at the President's Cup last year. It's hard, even though they
won the match play too.
Yeah, even though they didn't have a great record, it's hard to argue with that experience in this format, especially going on the road. On the European side, I think they're faced with the same thing. It's almost the same issue. Is Shane Lowry deserving based on his play this year? I think they picked him for other reasons. Aberg apparently was in for even before he just won this past week. Adrian Moronk is a tough guy out here. Just like on the U.S. side, there's a couple of those. So I just think you have to look at it. If you want to just go by who's deserving based on the points, well then just go pick 1 to 12. Just take and believe, way back in the day, that's what they used to do.
That's how it used to be.
They didn't used to have picks. So, I'm sort of intrigued to see how it works out. There's a couple of controversial picks on each side. Let's see how they play.
Adam, you think we got the 2 best teams going into Rome?
I wish I could steal Bob's answer, and I wish I had that one queued up and ready to go. But I'll say along with anybody
really good. I would just go to the next question.
It was too good. It was too good. But no, it was like it's JT probably hasn't earned a spot, but I can also completely understand why he's there. Like there's always going to be guys that are left out, and I hate when people do the whole the list of Ryder Cup snubs. It's like, well, if you're going to say someone's snubbed, then give me a good reason why they should be in over somebody. I think on the U.S. side, you can make that argument for a couple people. On the European side, Moronk is probably the only one that probably would have deserved a chance if we're going to use that word. But looking at the press conferences from the Irish Open yesterday, hearing everybody gushing in the last 2 days, they gushed about Shane Lowry, how important he is to that team, how important he's going to be over there. They talked about how Ludwig 2 weeks ago was probably already in off statistics alone, and then he goes off and wins it and then seals the deal. So I think we have to trust the captains to do to do what's best for their teams, right? And if that's wrong, then we're gonna get to write about it and talk about it for 4 days, and it's gonna be awesome to watch. But this is why we have captains to make these decisions, and it's not just 12 points. I hope it never goes back to the only 12. In fact, I've got a column coming out in the next Golfweek edition talking about how I think we should have all 12 captains picks. Like, if we really want to build a team, and if it's really that important, chances are that players who would automatically qualify are going to be picked anyways. They're going to be the first people you write down if we were going off a points list anyway. So I think the captains should have the right to build their teams, and I think each one has done what they think is going to be best for this. And I can understand it too.
Adam, if they just went straight off of 12, you wouldn't have anything to write about. I think the picks make it where you can be like,
I don't want that.
Oh no,
yeah.
You gotta have something to write about because I gotta have something to read.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want just straight.
That's what I'm saying. So I think from an old man perspective, like if you don't make the team, there's no like basketball tryouts when you're in high school. It's like, bro, I want the 12 best guys. Like, whatever, let's go. No, whatever. Like, I like that, but at the same time, the picks make it where like you said though, the only guy that I feel bad for is, how do you say his name?
Ludwig, Moran?
No, Adrian.
Adrian Moran.
Yeah, dude. I feel bad for that guy. Like, let's just call a spade a spade.
Doubt.
What
doubt.
the hell else
Absolutely.
are you going to do to get on the team? I mean, and his interview was unbelievable. He's like, I'm mad. Like, that is true competition, conviction in, hey, man, I worked my tail off. Like, that's what I love about sports, because you can't write that. So I don't even know the kid.
Yeah, what did he say? Like, I'm shocked. I was upset. I was angry. Like, that's all three emotions real, right there. Like, I loved how honest he was. Like, it shows how important it is to you guys, right?
Correct. I mean, I ain't that important to me, but I just thought it was really cool that he just did a good job of like not just going, go Europe, whatever. That's what I was so pumped about.
I'll be pulling for the guys. I'll be watching all week. Like, I'll be pulling for them. I'll be waving my blue and yellow flag. Like, yeah.
Well, in the middle of the conversation, he was asked, like, what do you think that, and he said, well, basically after Luke told me I wasn't going to go, I kind of stopped listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Facts. Yeah. And that's exactly what you would do. You would be like, yeah, dude, like, y'all should, that kid, I mean, I want to play with that kid.
Speaking of team golf, Adam, what are your thoughts on the Live Golf League and the team competition that's involved there and the team aspect? What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, similar to what I said earlier. I think there's definitely a market for it. I think it's interesting. It's definitely different than what we see on the PGA Tour week to week. I definitely, you see it growing, you see it building. Every live event that I go and cover, there's always a little something else going on. There's a bit more fanfare. There's a bit more, true, clapping for golf shots, actual golf crowds. It's not just people going out and partying all the time. There is still a fair amount of that for sure. People having fun, people having a good time. But I think it's interesting. I think it's tough to follow in the first 2 days, but come Sunday, when the individual leaderboard is close, or there's a team competition that's coming close and guys are making clutch putts down the stretch, you're seeing people run back and forth from hole to hole to go watch their teammates. Like, on the last day, it gets really exciting. I think it's tough to do that for the first two. I think the team aspect is kind of lost in those 2 days a lot of the time, I feel like. But come that Sunday, it can get really exciting if it's a close match.
Harold, you're in the middle of it, every tournament. What's your take on this new aspect of team golf with Live Golf?
It's been cool for me. When I came to Live, we were terrible. We were the Nibliks. And I had a lot of fun, and it was like, you felt like
the Nibliks.
Yeah, felt like a leader or whatever. Like, I met Piot and, HUD was on our team. So, and then Turk Pettit. So it was really cool for me. Like, I don't know. I thought it was cool because I never felt old until I got there. And then our team this year, it's just the dynamics very, the only thing I love about the team is, dude, you wake up and it's not about you. Like, I love that environment. I grew up playing team sports. So, like, it's a little different for me than other people. I think there's still some very individual, like, man, screw everybody else. So it makes it tough for you to shine on, like, the team part. But what's weird is I was in Michigan at the Eastview Michigan game, and I had on a Range Goats hat. And I was getting off the airplane, and this guy was like, oh, nice hat. And I was like, oh, yeah, thanks, whatever. and his whole family had on like range coat gear, and they're like, "I'll see you in Chicago." Like that's where it's clicking, which is really odd to me. Like that threw me a curveball because it was like 6:30 in the morning. So there's things that are going to go. I think that obviously the Aces are crushing it, but I get very, very pissed off though when we play bad as a team. Like if I play bad, like whatever, like, but like if we play bad as a team, I think, and our team's good. You know, Bubba he can't find the face right now, but I think he'll come around. I don't know what's going on, but we'll figure it out. And then Thomas is on the honeymoon phase, which I was on last year when I first went. I didn't play great. He's got some other stuff going on at home, and then Taylor Gooch is just lighting the world on fire. That's the goal. Is like if one guy plays well, you just go in there and you finish like top 10. Your team's going to like. I just really want to win. I hate losing to the Aces. It bothers me a lot because those guys have helped me out a lot, like in my golf career. Like I've played practice rounds with DJ and P. Reed and stuff like that. So like, yeah, it's personal for me. I don't want to lose to them, and I can't beat them without, the rest of my team.
Jake, do you agree with this team aspect in Live Golf?
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of go back to the Ryder Cup's picks for a second, because I didn't quite get to say my piece on it. I mean, I personally think that like it's just absolute trash. Just like the fact that this man Zach Johnson was like, yeah, I just don't get a chance to like see the other guys, and she's like, isn't that your job to see what's out there as a whole, and like these guys have been playing team golf the entire year, so don't you think that could make good chemistry to like put two teammates together from Live that are playing probably better than a lot of the guys that are already on the Ryder Cup team? So yeah, I don't know. I didn't really like not giving, just because they are playing at a different golf course doesn't mean that they're shouldn't be looked at the same way. So that kind of rubbed me the wrong way of like, why is there only the guy who did well in the majors and play? If like you don't think if DJ played in another PGA Tour event this year he would have qualified? Like it's just so silly. Like he didn't, like his game didn't fall off at all. He should still be on that team.
Well, yeah,
that's crazy.
DJ is not the.
That's what I've been hearing overall. Like the text messages I get. And I don't really, I don't care, but like that's mostly the sentiment I've been hearing. Like no matter who you pick, don't say that you couldn't do it. You couldn't see him, or that's what I'm hearing.
That was an unfortunate talking point that he made. There was no question that was.
It's not just a talking point; it's his actions. He didn't go to any live events.
Well, I mean, he wasn't going to. He didn't need to. I mean, you can watch them. He can find a way to watch them. He can look at the stats. He's seen them in the majors. I don't think he needed to do that. I mean, he wasn't at the BMW Championship to watch guys at the end. I mean, he knows enough. But I mean, I think to even say that and to talk about the courses. Look, they played at the Greenbrier, which is a course that he played. That was, look, it was just not, I don't think that was a smart road to go down. He knows what he's dealing with. He'd have been a fool to not take Brooks. You could certainly make a strong argument for DJ. He was 5-0 the last time.
But Bob, this is my question. Like, this is like beside the point, but as a leader, and we're going through this merger. As a captain, you're supposed to be a leader. I think he had an unbelievable opportunity to bring cohesiveness. If he could just came out and been like, hey man, I just wanted to see you play. You know how much respect and like, that's what I think. Like no one's taking the initiative to be the leader. They'd rather say, Jay, Yasser, why are you not, and I'm not good enough at golf to be that guy. I'm just like, I voice my opinion and people listen, maybe in the minority community, people are like, what do you need for black people here and that? But like, that's not here or there. But when the cohesiveness of the PGA Tour and Live, like the Ryder Cup could have been he could have been like, hey, I saw him play. This is who I'm going with. And how cool would that have been?
I wonder if there was some pressure from behind the scenes that
had to have been.
Zach got early on. His attitude changed a little bit from the PGA Championship, which was before the deal, to after. He played a practice round with Brooks at Royal Liverpool. I mean, I thought that was important. But to your point, you're right. This was a I just he could have even just said that. Hey, he could have just come out and said, hey, look, for the good of the game, I'm not going to care about where you play. I'm going to make my decisions based on who's best. Even
It
just
costs
saying
nothing
that,
to say that. Yeah.
right? Even just saying that would have helped. So I agree with you there. I think the idea of actually going to watch them and his talking points about that early on. Well, I don't see where they play. I mean, that was silly. There's so many analytics in golf nowadays that he could have drawn on to make his decision. We know what you guys, what the guys on Live are doing statistically, and to the point that Jake made about the team part of it, I think that was something to possibly consider. I mean, the format isn't the same, but there is the camaraderie. My sense too is with DJ, it doesn't matter. He gets along with everybody. I don't think there's a single guy on that team that would have had a problem with him being picked. So
No.
like, like if you think of it that way, I'm guessing though that he just felt like, well, I've got to go with these guys who are on the points list.
Yeah, it was a good way to just cop out like I'm out. No, I got nothing. I'm not gonna watch it anyway, so I don't really care. I love seeing the drama.
You're not going to watch the Ryder Cup, man?
Man,
Come
it's
on.
so hard to watch golf, man. I don't care if it's Live, PGA Tour. It takes forever. It's just hard. It's hard, man. I'm just telling you. It's difficult. And we got football coming up.
You went to the President's Cup.
Yeah, I didn't see a golf shot, though.
I saw you at the President's Cup here.
I just told you I went, but I didn't. I went because it's in Charlotte. I'm a member at the club, and I didn't see a single golf shot. It was great.
You didn't see a single golf shot, or you don't remember seeing a single golf
Both.
shot?
I went to the chalet. I hung out with some people. It was awesome. I went to the Wells Fargo this year. I did watch some golf there. My boy qualified, so yeah, I don't care. I don't care where you play. I just want to see my people succeed, and I'm gonna support them until I die. Yeah, at the end of that President's Cup, I was definitely in a state of wonder.
Well, let me ask you this, Harold. All of these picks are based on the OWGR system, and I think we can all agree that that's not exactly accurate these days. So, what's your solution? Does it make sense to scrap the OWGR and create a whole new governing body, or keep the same system and figure out a way to give Live Golf points for the majors? What's your take on the whole thing, Harold?
The problem with doing that, I think they should just keep it. The problem with doing that, they've let I think Bryson and DJ and Patrick Reed are really good, so I think their world ranking doesn't represent. I think not having the world, like if they gave us world rankings, I think it'd be hard to, the way it's set up, to get back to where I think they should be. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm ranked. Don't know what my highest ranking was. I just got excited when I got the invites and got to go play bigger tournaments. So I think you should keep it. I think it's just easier, something else you don't have to, start all over and figure it out. That's all. I don't know much about the world ranking, to be honest with you. I don't know really. I think it works based off of how many, the toughest, they put all the points together in a field, and then they basically, that's how they come up with the strength of field. If you did that, our strength of field would be so bad, it'd be hard to move up. So it's interesting. I don't really care. I don't, honestly. I think they should just keep it. But at the same time, if you keep it, how do you get it the fairness? What is DJ going to have to win 30 Live events to get to top 10 in the world, or since the possible points are so much lower now?
Well, and that's the question. What's the solution? What do you think, Jake?
I mean, I think something's got to change, right? Like, the game has changed, so how can you keep the same, rule book or ranking system to a game that's not the same? Like, you look at the society in America and the judicial system, or when society changes, so do the bills, and and it's something that is at this point not working anymore for what is golf. And if it doesn't change, I don't think that I'll ever consider the world golf ranking points to be accurate.
Bob, do you concur?
Well, I agree they're not accurate right now because you've got world-class players not being included. And, but I don't think you can have a separate system and have it, and have it.
You are a world-class player, Harold.
Well,
no doubt about it.
And look, I would also argue that the way the Live structure is, with only 48 players, is it that hurts them in the overall scheme of things. The Tour Championship a couple weeks ago with only 30 players was ranked far lower than it was 2 years ago under the old OWGR system. The system now gives you more credit if you have a deeper field. So 48 players is just on its face going to have less. It's not like the live players are going to just rocket up the rankings. But if they're properly ranked, they're still going to have an opportunity to move up, just like any other tour does around the world. It's not going to be as easy, but if you did what Taylor Gooch did this year, win 3 times, you're gonna jump up. You're gonna make a move, and why shouldn't he be able to? But I mean, one of your questions, Teddy, was, should there be another system? Why would the existing body, what we care about this for the most, aside from if there's any endorsement possibilities associated with the world rankings, is the majors. The majors are part of the system. Why would they want to change it? They're in it. They're part of it. They're embedded in it. So they're going to be part of the system that they use to determine players in the majors. So I would just say include live. I think we've gotten to the point now, it's been more than a year. I've been writing this. If you have issues with live's format that need to be addressed, tell them what they are and ask them to comply. It's that simple. I mean, they do that with any other tour around the world. Some of these other tours that are developmental tours, if they aren't doing something right, the OWGR says, no, we need you to do this. You need to have more players in your field, say. Or, hey, you need to have weekly qualifying. Liv could do those things. Liv could go to 60 players. Liv could have a weekly qualifying event, which, as I've written, I think would be incredibly compelling if you had 100 players playing for 4 spots in a live event every week, with the idea that if they get in, they're going to be guaranteed $120,000. You think there wouldn't be interest in that? Right?
And
a guy
never
that, look, there was
broke, like,
just a
80
woman
or
on the
something,
LPGA
right?
Tour who won
Yeah, that was a great story, Bob.
after qualifying. It was a great story. No, but right. I mean, well, she had missed a ton of cuts or whatever.
9 in a row.
Yeah, 9 in a row. So, but I mean, let's say, what if you had a Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday qualifier for live, and you charged $5,000 to get in, and you had 100 players. So what's that? $500,000 that they could raise and give to charity if they wanted. But for in other words, you're not gonna just have the dreamers coming out there to pay. You're gonna have to pay. You better be pretty good if you're gonna pay that kind of money to try and qualify. But then if you get in, I would say put the 4 guys in and make them their own rogue team for the week. And so
that would be cool.
It would be like the ultimate underdog story. And if a guy top 10s or something,
Correct.
you let him play
That's
the next
hard.
week.
Yes.
But they have to have a system, obviously, for coming in and out. These guys like an Andy Ogletree, who's not been in every week, that can't be great for him. So again, I'm bringing up an idea that doesn't have.
No, Andy Ogletree's playing lights out.
Look, he's going to be on there next year, almost assuredly. At this point, we know what live is. They can operate. They've run tournaments. They have rules people. They know what they're doing. Now, if there's
100%.
things that the OWGR doesn't like or that needs to be addressed, they should just tell them. Say, hey, look, we need to do this, this, and this. Instead, it's in limbo again because of the agreement. They've basically put it aside again.
Yeah.
What do you think is the solution, Adam, to this?
I don't know if there's. I think the most easy solution, because obviously, like you guys have said, the live guys, just if they start earning points, they're not going to be skyrocketing up because of the format and the system and how it's all broken down. I think we're probably more likely to see exemption categories for majors, where a certain X number of live players would go in. I think would probably be the easiest way to do it. I think that's the easiest way to do it. If you say, hey, X number of live players in the OWGR not already qualified, right? I think that's an easy way to do it. If you go to the live team or player standings at that point, if you want to go off that year, you could do it that way. There's different ways to do it, but I just think we're more likely to see that than we are to see everybody being all implemented back in, and that way we can make sure it's a meeting in the middle. Live guys can earn points like they always should have been able to from the jump. Very few people I think would actually argue that. And then 2, you could actually have them in the majors based on performance, right? I think it's the easiest way to do it.
That's a solid answer. And it brings us to our martini. This is our last question, fellas. Been a great show so far. Bob, what are your final thoughts on this last little bit of controversy? Do you think, after everything that we talked about with the PIF and Live Golf and the PGA Tour, do you think that those two entities, the PGA Tour and the Live Golf League, can coexist independently of one another in the future? You think it's possible?
Yeah, Kurt,
are we saying without an agreement?
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Are we saying without an agreement?
Teddy asked the question without an agreement.
Either or. However,
that's the $1,000,000 question.
Is it possible for them to coexist? Okay, without an agreement. Can they coexist without an agreement?
Frankly, I don't think so. Look, Live. I don't think there's any question that without an agreement, Live can still continue to go on. They will. They're planning to. They're acting as if nothing's changed, which is fine. They're lining up venues down the road beyond next year. But I mean, I still think being part of the whole picture will down the road help them, and that's why I don't think they can coexist without an agreement.
I think they can coexist for a couple of years without an agreement, but anything longer than 26, probably not. But if over the next few years, it's just going to be business like it has been for the last two. A couple of guys are going to go a year, maybe more if there's no agreement, maybe more now. I was surprised more guys didn't go this last go around, if I'm being honest. But I think more will start to go now if there's no framework agreement over the next few years. And I agree with Bob. I don't think it can long term, but short term, I think they both can. But long term, I don't think so.
What do you think, Harold? Do you think you guys can play along and coexist in the sandbox?
Person that looks up these leaders that run golf, I think deep down inside, all of them want people to be able to see the best players play together and, coexist together. So, like, when the people that have the money, that make the decisions want to see that, it'll happen, first of all. But, like, I think the PGA Tour, Live needs a PGA Tour and the PGA Tour needs Live. I don't know how equally that is, but, like, I just think both of them have been – I wouldn't have been able to come to Live without the PGA Tour. Like I had a place to showcase my talents. So that's that. I wanted Bob nailed it. He hit it nail on the head. You got to have. There's not enough people wanting to watch golf to sit here and be like, hey, we'll separate the two. Like, I mean, golf ain't that damn cool. You could do this in the NFL. They tried it in the NFL, and they're like, no, we all want to make billions. And they were like, we're going to make sure we're together. And we don't have that many people watching golf to be able to do that and make a great size of money. Good.
Jake, what do you think?
I mean, I think, what's everybody's contract on Live? Usually everybody got, 3 or 4 years. So once that's up and there's no agreement.
1 or 2.
Live has done well on its own the first couple years, but I don't think, obviously, they're not profitable as a company. So I think that's the bottom line, right? And if the sponsors aren't willing to go, I don't see how it can continue without some sort of agreement. But I think you have to, like Harold said, to start this show off, control what you can and what you're in control of, right? So he's focusing on just playing good golf and giving back to the community, and I think that's ultimately what all these players need to focus on. Is how can they make the most out of any opportunity in the time being, and from there, what can they do with that now platform or whatever they have, right? So, who knows? We're not the people that make the decisions, so all we can do is try to milk it forever, whatever it is, and then from there, see where the next place is that you can play.
Awesome, guys! Absolutely awesome show. We can go on and on and on for hours and hours and hours on all these topics, but that's all the time that we've got today. We ended on a great note. Jake, you were talking about giving back to the community. Harold, I just want you to give a shout out to your foundation, the HV3 Foundation. Can you tell us really quickly what you guys are up to these days?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. We the most important thing in life is having people that care about you that aren't your parents. So we started a mentorship there's going to be one in Asheville, there's one in Akron, Ohio, there's one in Charlotte, and there's probably 300 kids. It's really cool. There's a lot of stuff. We have some tournaments, and it costs a lot of money to do this stuff. So
wow.
I'm really proud about it because it's not about me. I think that's how you win in life. And I had 2 individuals that really helped me get through life that weren't my parents. They sponsored me when I turned pro. And I'm having breakfast with one of them in 20 minutes. So it's just something I felt that was important. It's pretty cool to do it in your community. I've been home a lot, so I've been going to these events they have and Yeah, just go to h33foundation.org and you can see it. I don't like talking about it. I don't think you have to talk about something if you want to help people. And yeah, it's cool. It's awesome.
Thank you guys. That was absolutely fantastic. What a great episode. What a great way to get out of the gate. Listen, join us next week when we invite another incredible guest to tackle some of the 9 questions that all golf fans want the answers to. Keep an eye out for stuff coming from a Quick 9 podcast. God bless everyone. Good night.